What's up? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of
We got the boys in here.
Oh, yeah.
Brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more as Kyle throws in a massive shot.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah, a little dip.
This is a Ben Johnson regime. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want.
Is that right?
Hell yeah.
Bears about to win another offseason.
You heard him on. Yeah, somebody yesterday was giving me that. There's some salty Packers fan upstairs in the research den. I was essentially like, hey, how's it feel to be back in the basement, you know, like to the Packers? And he was like, oh, you guys want another? I was like, shut your mouth.
One other offseason?
I was going to say, it sounds like you started that one.
Your name is Rookie.
We got a jam-packed show.
Yep.
We have our first off the ball segment, going to round up some head coaching and assistant coaching hire news. Got our deep dives.
I got to get my phone for the rundown.
And we got our mailbag segment to cap it off. You guys asked, we'll answer. And if I don't get your questions, hopefully I'll find them on Twitter and respond to them. Some very good ones. Yeah. So hopefully we can speed through and get to all of them. First off the ball, you can make this quick. A few coaching hire roundups. As everyone predicted, Josh McDaniels, OC of New England Patriots, yet again. Was he like 3-time OC of the New England Patriots?
Surprise. Something like that, yeah. Surprise, right?
It's like they're going to rename it the Josh McDaniels OC like they do for like college, where they have those honorary
for
coaches.
Sure.
It's the Josh McDaniels OC in New England. We had Kevin O'Connell agreeing to a multi-year contract extension of the Minnesota Vikings. Who was it? Was it you saying?
Jay Glazer.
It got floated that he might get.
Oh, did you see him go off on X yesterday?
No.
Oh,
Jay
man.
Glazer?
Yeah.
Because people were making fun of him?
Correct.
Glaze was getting sensitive. So Glaze, great guy, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
Heart of gold.
Real good dude.
He's only about this big, but his heart is this big. He cares a great deal about his guys, and obviously he has to nurture and harvest all these relationships in order to do his job.
Correct.
And it helps these people out a great deal. And clearly O'Connell's agent was like, hey, you should go on Fox and be like,
break this
O'Connell might be a surprise coaching candidate.
Correct.
Because his deal isn't done yet.
Yeah.
Is up. He was in that McCarthy situation.
Yeah, which was baffling to me.
And it's funny because Glaze went on there and was like, surprise head coaching candidate Kevin O'Connell. And then they got waxed by the Lions, and then they got waxed in the playoffs by the Rams.
So everybody was like, why would you put that news out there right before they're about to play the biggest game of the year?
So I wonder if the number went up that day and then it went back down.
Maybe.
It was like, one of these meme coins that we see.
I just think that was a perfect storm. When you look at Sam Darnold, whether Kevin O'Connell was going to lead the Vikings or not, Sam Darnold has always struggled against pressure. Like, that's been his MO. Now, he looked a lot better earlier in the season. But after seeing what the Lions did to him, and then, following up, the Rams did the exact same thing. Like, that's been his MO. You can't put that on Kevin O'Connell. It was just a perfect storm. But to your point, I thought it was insane that they allowed him to get into the final year of his contract and not give him an extension, because I guarantee teams would have lined up for KOC.
Yep.
He should be coach of the year this year. We'll see.
Right behind Andy Reid.
Yeah. Andy Reid,
I just always say Andy.
You do. Coach Campbell's up there, Mike Tomlin for what he's done as well. But I think it's Kevin O'Connell without a doubt, because nobody thought with Sam Darnold that they would win 14.
Or Dan Quinn.
Yeah, for sure. Dan Quinn.
You got to at least put him in the set.
You have to put him in the conversation. He's got to be a top 5 candidate, I would think. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting,
So
story.
this NFC North is now the coaching powerhouse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It has to be. If you look around, Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell, these are all highly sought after coaches.
Is there a division? What division would even be close to that in terms of head coaches? Are we thinking the West?
AFC West.
North.
The AFC North, do you think it's better?
We got to think the longevity of the North, right? The pedigree with Harbaugh, Tomlin, and then you have
Zach Taylor, question mark.
But he's been to a Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, but they just
Stefanski's a 2-time coach of the year.
They just fired the DC. There's question marks in Cleveland. In terms of the places where there's the least question marks, I would say the AFC West and the NFC North.
That's recency bias, though.
The top 3 in the AFC West.
If we're being honest.
I am a bias.
That's recency bias.
But Harbaugh.
I was like, Harbaugh and Tomlin, it's like, the longevity of it. And then even can say Stefanski, too, because, again, 2-time head coach of the year.
My guy, Adam Shine, was beaten on the table to get Kevin Stefanski to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He was like...
I think Cleveland ain't stupid.
But that's
walk out the door.
You forget how good of a coach Stefanski is because of what's transpired in Cleveland.
100%.
Either way, it's probably those 3. Those are the top 2 divisions in the NFL as it stands right now. And one, the West, could be even getting better because the Raiders are looking into Pete Carroll as the next head coach. What are our thoughts on that pairing, considering, well, it seems like you need a long-term plan in Las Vegas.
Old guys do good. Old guys do well in Vegas.
He's going to
They're just not allowed to talk about it.
He's going to be on the Strip watching all the Barry Manilow shows.
Chewing the shit out of that gum.
Oh, my God. Real question, how many pieces of gum do you think he goes through in a game?
If he's at the Sphere on some Molly,
oh my God,
he's got to chew 87 pieces of gum at the Sphere. And imagine he's going to watch the Grateful Dead revival tour. You know, Pete Carroll loves the Grateful Dead.
Probably gonna see the Eagles there. I think the Eagles are at the Sphere right now.
Watch out. Yeah. That's a show let's just leave now and go watch the Eagles at the Sphere with Pete Carroll.
That'd be amazing.
Look, I'm not saying Pete Carroll does Molly. I would just assume, you give him a couple pieces of gum, he'd be super happy.
I mean, like from all intents and purposes, this sounds like this is a legit thing, and it's so interesting, right? Because we had the same conversation about Mike Vrabel earlier this year. It's like last year when he was released of his duties from the Tennessee Titans, like he couldn't even buy an interview. But all of a sudden, this coaching carousel, he was the hottest coach out there, right? Same thing with Pete Carroll with the pedigree that he had, not only in the NFL, but in college. You would think a few teams may have lined up to try to interview him, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden Pete Carroll is available and is like, he could potentially most likely be the Raiders coach. It's just funny how like just a year away and time changes things.
Well, I think what's important to understand is the people that were in the Vegas building, they had a lot of problems with the program that was being run under Coach Pierce. And it doesn't necessarily mean they don't like Coach Pierce, but there was organizational, they were disjointed. Guys were late for meetings. The schedule was off. People had a lot of complaints about the way they went about their day. How can you shore that up? You get a guy who's done it forever and who is literally a player's coach, and you know that you're going to get the most out of his group. I remember being really jealous of the Seattle Seahawks training camp because they'd show up on jet skis and they were in shorts and hats.
No pads.
Shorts and hats. You want to talk, like I'd watch the Legion of Boom play defense and I'd be like, there's no shit. They're fresh.
They're fresh. They don't hit nor practice.
We just left a training camp in Bourbonnais, Illinois, beating the hell out of each other for 4 hours. No wonder. So, I mean, I think that transitioning from, let's be honest, Antonio Pierce is a hard ass. Transitioning from a real OG hard ass to an OG players coach, I think you could see some good changes in Las Vegas. I mean, it all comes down to what they're going to do on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, right? With Carroll, he's not at the bleeding edge of X's and O's at this point in time.
He's a culture guy.
Exactly.
100%.
He's a CEO. He's not calling plays on either side of the football.
And culture matters.
It's just going to be then, if they do get Pete Carroll, who you get for us?
That was my question. What does the staff look like with Pete Carroll? Like, what would it be?
Mike Martz.
Well, I mean, because supposedly Schottenheimer could be the guy in Dallas, so would he not be able to get him? Because if he becomes a head coach, then where's Pete Carroll going to go for the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator?
Yeah.
Those other positions.
Is it a stop that one of these offensive coaches that are on the cusp of being a head coach or being a head coach again? Like I think about a Matt Nagy. Would he be willing to go under Pete Carroll for a year as a quick stop? But I think he wants to be a head coach again.
If that were the case, though, I mean, the West would be, in terms of just, I mean, 4 guys who could legitimately be Hall of Fame worthy coaches.
100%. Yeah.
That's insane. And Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to our deep dives. Coming up next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
I'm not a big fest.
Yeah, you see the people with you go to a concert, you see the people with lollipops. You're like, keep your distance from from bug eyes over there. You know what I'm saying? We went to Coachella my rookie year, me and a bunch of my non-football buddies, and I just remember seeing more blow pops per capita than I'd ever seen in my life.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was just people that were getting wild. Yeah, festival goers, the glitter face people.
They scare
Moving on.
All right, Jay, deep dive. What we got?
So I thought this would be a fun activity. It's going to be interactive with you guys. I went down this rabbit hole yesterday. And I just randomly had this thought in my head, like if every starting quarterback in today's NFL career ended today, how many of them would be actual Hall of Famers?
Yeah.
Right. So we'll knock off the first 2 because I think this is even a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
For sure, right? You look Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Mahomes, 2-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, 3-time winner in the Super Bowl.
Come on.
This is where it gets interesting, and I can't wait to hear your guys' perspective, right? Because this next one, a lot of people have brought up, right? And this is a guy that was in Denver, right? Got released, is in Pittsburgh now. He's had the longevity of a career and has had a lot of success. Russell Wilson, right? One-time Super Bowl champ. He's been a 9-time Pro Bowler, 1-time second-team All-Pro, and he's top 20 in passing yards all time.
Yep.
If his career ended today, would Russell Wilson be a Hall of Famer?
I'd have to take a look at all the other Hall of Famers and look side by side. I mean, it feels like a Hall of Fame type career. I think maybe one more Super Bowl win would put him in there. He'd have a bust for sure, but he's definitely a guy that you would see on a list every year when it comes time to vote for the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I just don't.
If he went,
I'm with you. I'll explain why.
Because also, I think you're going to have this group of quarterbacks that just retired. That's going to kind of log jam
the
quarterback position, and I think he's behind.
I always forget about that.
You know.
Yeah, you got to think like the Matt Ryans, the Phillip Rivers,
Matt Stafford,
right? Drew Brees, because Drew Brees.
I think he's even behind like Eli Manning.
Matt Stafford.
If we're talking about Eli Manning being like a fringe guy,
yeah,
Russell Wilson's behind Eli.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's
the
thing. People are saying Eli's a fringe guy and he's a 2-time Super Bowl champ.
Yeah.
But when you look at his statistics, he's top 11 in passing yards all time. So it's just like, I don't think people have done the research because, yes, when he won those Super Bowls, kind of was led by the defense. But there was a span of like 5 to 7 years where the Giants team was led by its offense.
Yeah.
And Eli was throwing the ball around the yard, right? So people tend to forget that as well. So.
Hey, his defense didn't break that sack and complete that pass over the middle of the field. You know what I'm saying? And beat Tom Brady in the undefeated 100%.
Patriots. I mean, he probably has 2 of the biggest throws in Super Bowl history. That's not me just saying that. Like the one to Manning on the sideline, Mario Manningham, and then the one, obviously, to David Tyree. Yeah. This is an interesting one because me and Kyle were having a side conversation. Matt Stafford, right? When you look at it, he's a Super Bowl champ, only a 2-time Pro Bowler, right? No All-Pros.
Which is absolute
insane.
Dog water.
Now, I will go back to this. When we were talking about Russell Wilson's 9, a lot of those, he wasn't voting in as a Pro Bowl. He went as an alternate. So you have to put that in the conversation.
I think a quarterback specifically, all pros, probably a little bit more.
More prestigious. But I was going to say, Russell does have 1 second-team All-Pro. Matt Stafford is top 10 in NFL passing yards in NFL history.
All time. Most pass yards per game in the playoffs all time, I think, as well. And also, you bring up the Pro Bowl thing. I got an older brother named Chris, and a lot of you guys know him. Obviously, Leger and Mike know him. He played in St. Louis for the first, I think it was 8 years of his career until the St. Louis Rams moved to Los Angeles. And he was released at the end because of an injury. And he had like 80 sacks in St. Louis on a team that never had a lead, that never had more than like 4 wins a year. That's an astronomical number. And the guy never made a Pro Bowl. Like Matt Stafford playing in Detroit, a smaller market relative to the other ones in division. It's tough to be able to garner that kind of national attention and that kind of appreciation. So I throw out all the Pro Bowl numbers, particularly for guys who were on bad teams for a number of years. Because we saw Matt Stafford go out there and compete and break records and be prolific year in, year out. And then when we see him on a good team, Super Bowl
get a ring.
So, I mean, I'm not going to hold the Pro Bowl numbers against a guy like Matt Stafford. The things that I do weigh heavily in this conversation are production, and you said it there. He's top 10 in yards all time. I'm sure touchdowns. And then I just think his style of play transcends generations. He's so fucking tough. He's such a gamer. He's such a baller. He's of that old school. So I love Matt Stafford. I'd put him in all.
I think he has a better argument right now than Russell Wilson. I think at this very moment in time, I would be iffy. I think ultimately he will, though,
eventually,
because he plays 2 more years. He's going to be top 5 all-time passing yards. Right. If it's 2 more years, stays healthy, he'll be top 5 all-time passing yards. At that point, difficult to keep him out.
Yeah,
and he's still got the arm talent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's throwing it through the snow like it was
he doesn't
nothing.
Need copper fit.
I thought he was. I like what you did. I honestly, I thought he was going to struggle in that game weather-wise because his history has shown he had struggled. But I mean, the weather didn't affect him throwing the football at all this past weekend versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So still top tier arm. Obviously, doesn't have the mobility that he used to have, but he can still spin it with the best of them. So I'm like you. I think eventually he will get in. I just, like to Mike's point, there's going to be a log jam at quarterbacks these next couple of years. So it's going to take him probably a while to get in. This next one's very interesting, right? Because when I say the name, people are probably going to automatically say, no way. But then I'm going to read you some stats. Joe Flacco, Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP, most career passing yards and passing touchdowns for a guy that's never been to the Pro Bowl. right? But he's also top 20 in passing in NFL all-time history. So Flacco's career ended. Would he somewhere down the line potentially get into the Hall of Fame?
Gosh.
No. This one's just like firm.
See, that's what I'm saying. People will say no. But then when you look at Russell Wilson, it's very comparable.
This is like cilantro. Some people just love it. Some people can't stand it.
Correct.
Tastes like soap to some people.
I think the lack of Pro Bowl is almost like a non-starter. And I said it didn't matter as much. It's all pro.
That's what I'm saying.
Like he didn't have either, right? He has none.
And he was on a good team.
I mean, he was the one that turned one down.
Yeah. So I do think that ultimately, no, that was
Joe Flacco, though.
Yeah, I always find that conversation interesting because I believe Russell Wilson's 17 in passing yards and he's 18 all time. So I was just like,
I think the next guy goes in tomorrow, just like Patrick.
Oh, 100%. That's why I wanted to ask you guys. Lamar Jackson,
yep.
Yeah,
right? Two-time, potential 3-time MVP, right? He did something this season that nobody's ever done in NFL history. 4,000 plus passing yards, over 800 rushing yards, 40 plus passing touchdowns with fewer than 5 interceptions. And just for some context for people to say that he wouldn't go in tomorrow, let's just read off the list. I can't read off the list. Everybody that's been a multiple-time MVP is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Besides Brady and Mahomes and Rodgers, who will be in the Hall of Fame, right? So, like, that alone lets you know that Lamar Jackson is getting to the Hall of Fame tomorrow. So I thought that was an interesting one because people would say, I don't. But it's like, bro,
he changed the way that our game is played.
Correct.
He changed the way the defenses
transcended in the NFL. Yeah.
He changes the eye line of every defender on the field. And yeah, he's a rule breaker. We talk about exceptions. He's the exception to the rule, man.
Yep, 100%. This next one,
his bust is going to look awesome.
No question. You think they're going to show
the grill?
Yeah.
How are they going to make it shine?
That's a good question. Maybe put like little divots in it.
Yeah. Get that man some ice.
Yeah, for sure. Josh Allen. He's been a second-team All-Pro twice. No MVPs, though. So Josh Allen's career ended today.
Josh Allen's got a little bit more work to do.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree with that. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah.
But he's on the right track.
At this point, he hasn't quite – because accolades still matter for Hall of Fame voting, like it or not. And, same draft class as Lamar, but he started a lot slower than Lamar did. Years 2 and 3 for Josh were like –
tough.
Not nearly as good as years 2 and 3 for Lamar. So he was behind from that. He's caught up at this point, obviously, with them neck and neck in MVP voting. But I mean, it's probably like he either needs a ring or
at least two
or 3 more years.
Yeah.
Like a few more years at this level of
one
play
MVP.
Yeah.
I was like, I think you would have to get an MVP too to get in there right now. And this last one, Kurt Cochain.
Yeah, this is interesting.
4-time Pro Bowler, right outside of top 20 in passing yards. What do you think? Mike said no.
We still got to set the bar high. I know it's a quarterback position. They get all their other awards gifted to them and all the headlines and all that. But, like, we got guys who are top 10 in the NFL in receiving yards all time. Steve Smith Sr., Reggie White.
It's a travesty that Steve Smith isn't in there.
So if you're outside the top 20 in passing yards, even outside the top 10 right now, that's why I balk at Matt Stafford, even though he's 11th. It's just like it's the Hall of Fame. It's not just you were very good for a long time. It's you were different.
It's the elite.
I have a hot take about the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me clear my throat for this one.
Yeah.
So my dad's in it. His bust is awesome. Looks just like him. I think that every single Hall of Famer should not only have a bust, but they should have the full body.
Ooh.
Exact height.
They probably run out of space.
You know what? Knock a wall down and make a room and line them up. I just think it would be for a young kid getting an opportunity to go to Canton, Ohio.
To see the sheer size.
When I was 11 or 12, I went there for my dad's induction in 2001. He went in with Ronnie Lott, Joe Montana, with Rooney from the Steelers.
He had a class.
Yeah, it was a good class. And Dave Wilcox, who was an Oregon man. But at the end of the day, I remember I'd close my eyes at night for like 3 months afterwards, and I'd just picture these legendary heads, faces. Imagine the awe that I would be in, or any of us would be in as kids, walking up and seeing, Jonathan Ogden in bronze.
What they could do, though, I mean, with AI and technology as it is,
I was going to say
they could almost do holograms.
That's what I was thinking.
and how, because I do think seeing like how big guys were for a kid,
put things into perspective.
Is that
like people watch Brian Urlacher play, but they don't realize that he's 6'5", 255 pounds.
Jim Brown.
Are you kidding me, dude? And then you'd see a guy like Barry Sanders or Steve Smith made me think of it. I was like, well, they have space for Steve Smith. It's not
my God,
you can't fit him in the building. But yeah, Hall of Famer Steve Smith. So I don't get beat up, Steve.
He played at 6'5".
Senior.
Yeah.
Senior. You gotta say that. He definitely played at 6'5". But yeah, I thought that was an interesting conversation. Just if some of these current quarterbacks' careers ended, like how many would actually be in the Hall of Fame right now? So we counted 1, 2, obviously Rodgers, Mahomes.
3, Jackson,
those 3 are automatic. We all agree, right? Those 3. And then like borderline, Russell Wilson, Matt Stafford, and I guess Josh Allen has some.
And if you were to have to power rank those, I would go Stafford, Allen, Wilson.
Really?
Yeah.
I think you have to put Russell in front of Allen just because of body.
I'm projecting.
Yeah. But you just never know what happens in the future.
Yeah. Russell goes to Vegas and lights it up.
I mean, Russ plays a couple more years. He can find his way in that top 15, top 10 passing yards.
I think I'll go here now on the deep dive.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been tweeting me and asking me about certain prospects, college football prospects. And as you guys know, I don't watch college a lot. So I've started to go on YouTube and find these like 35-minute long just game tape footage of guys. Campbell from LSU was the first guy that I watched. And I just wanted to talk about and ask you guys what we're all looking for in an offensive line prospect coming out of college. And I'll start with just a few things that I take a look at. Obviously, the eyeball test is what my dad always talked to me about. You want to look the part as well. You don't want to be sloppy, right? I mean, you look at body types.
Correct.
Because
100%.
we have a wealth of information based on our experiences of what guys who are built like are able to do. So first and foremost, the eyeball test. You either pass or fail the eyeball test. I know there's exceptions to the rule. There's some real shitty bodies doing some really incredible things in the NFL. But first and foremost, eyeball test. Then I look at obviously what position they're playing, what positions they have played. Why are they at that position and not the other position anymore? And then obviously you turn on the tape. And the first thing I want to look at is in the pass protection. Do you have the ability to mirror defenders? Do you have the ability to keep your feet low to the ground? Are you up off the ground with your feet or not? And then when you do reach that point of contact in the speed to power department, do you have enough ass to sit on it?
Can you hold an anchor?
Do you have an anchor? And that's an important thing. I also look at where your elbows are in the run game. If you're armless from the back, as Harry Heastan used to say. So armless from the back. I'll show you guys this. Bad offensive linemen block like this. You can see
wide arms. Yeah.
Armless from the back looks like this.
Correct.
This means when I have my elbows in and I've got my hands fit up under you, that's leverage. That's what power looks like. That's what an understanding of body on body physicality looks like to me. So with a guy like Will Campbell, I'm watching him, and the first thing that stands out to me, he's got a really strong outside hand. He doesn't swing the gate. He does a good job of maintaining his stagger as an offensive tackle. Takes away the inside, fights to maintain that outside leg, outside hand relationship. But in the run game, it is, what does your pad level look like? What is your willingness to uncoil those hips? Do you have the ability to uncoil your hips and triple extend? Even further than that, I look at hand, like if I'm part of a double team and I'm the left tackle, Mike's the left guard. If you have a 3 technique and I'm trying to cave this thing down, where am I putting my hands? Am I putting it high on the shoulder pad? Am I trying to hit you in the ribs? Or like Will Campbell does, which I really love, he gets his hands on the hip. That's a guy who understands how to move people. And it's unfortunate, but you get a lot of these guys that just want to grab onto people like this and wrestle with them and stand up straight. when you get to the league, and Leger, you know this, these are grown men
who know if you want to
who know exactly how to fight and how to play the game of football. So I think I'm looking for the guys who are technically sound, honestly, and who are experienced, just like you've talked about with quarterbacks. The more experience you have in college, the better set up for success you are in the NFL. So I look at technique, I look at eyeball tests. The last thing I look at is the numbers, arm length. What is your inseam?
Facts.
How tall you are. That's when I'm comparing two players.
Yeah. Then
I'll look at that. But eyeball test and film tells me so much, and it starts with the ability to generate force through the ground. Your feet, your hips, and your hand placement. That's really what I'm looking for. When you're scouting offensive linemen, what stands out to you, good or bad? Do you start with stance? Because I feel like some coaches would be like, I hate a stance. I'm like, just let the play go. Yeah. Let the play happen.
No. For me, the biggest thing, and it's kind of changed over the years as I've dove more into the draft. I believe it's like my 6th or 7th draft. First and foremost, I look at traits, like things that you talked about, right? Do they uncoil their hips, right? How do they run off the ball? Are they explosive off the ball? Those are some of the things.
Are they understepping?
Correct. And then I look at disabilities, right? Lack of ankle flexion, right? Are they a waist bender because it's a medical thing, or is that a technique thing? So like when I dive in deep. Like if I keep seeing a player do the same thing, now he could be coached wrong. Like that's a God honest truth. There are some bad coaches out there, right? But most of the time for a player, when he continuously does something, if he's getting beat on it, it's more than likely a medical thing. Like he can't redirect because he doesn't have
limited.
He's limited laterally, right? He can't take on an anchor because maybe one, the strength isn't there, or two, he doesn't have the ankle flexion to do it, right? So those are some of the things I'm looking at. Then after that, I start getting into the X's and O's, like hand placement and stuff. Because to me, a lot of that is technique based, right?
Yep.
And I think the greatest quote that Mike Tomlin ever had is, he's like, I hate getting evals and people talk about, well, this guy steps this way. He's like, that's a technique thing. That's on us as coaches. We wouldn't get paid what we get paid if everybody was already ready when they came into the league. Right. So that's why I think I look at traits more often than anything. And then after that, I look at disabilities to see, is this like, what is the ceiling for this guy? Right. Is this something that can be correctable, or is this a medical thing where no matter what we do, this is where he is. This is his limits right here.
And you made me think, you said traits. A trait that is very high on the list for something I'm looking for is there's two things. First, significant touch.
Correct.
Are you initiated? So if I'm a tackle and I'm setting back and it's a 7-step drop, let's say it's 3rd and 12. I know speed to power is coming. There's a 9 technique out there. Am I catching the defender or am I striking the defender?
Correct.
And if I am striking the defender, what are my feet doing in conjunction with my hands? Because that's how you can get that anchor. That's how you can stone a rusher. And then, so first significant touch and last significant touch. And that's what stood out to me about Will Campbell.
Oh, he's a finisher.
It doesn't have to be a pancake. Yeah. It doesn't have to be a highlight, but it's just that little.
Oh, I'm letting you know I'm here.
The plays are.
I'm letting you know I'm here. Yeah.
The shove.
He's the king of that, and I love it.
We got Trey Smith from Tennessee. He was a 5th-round pick because of a congenital heart condition.
Should have been a second-round pick.
Should have been a first-round pick. Should have been a second-round pick. Whatever it may be. He's an all-pro now. Yeah. But the thing that stood out to me immediately was his violent strike, his willingness to finish blocks, the instinctual protector that exists in his heart and his brain, and how that translates into being a great teammate. And as an offensive lineman, that's paramount. First significant touch, last significant touch, and willing to do whatever it takes to protect your boys.
Before, I know you're about to jump in, Mike, but to me, when you talk about traits, that's a mental trait. Like, what's their mental like, right? So I look at that as well when I watch a tape. Like, I always look for finish as well. And then, like, for offensive linemen, I love to see a little grittiness. Like, again, you don't have to pancake somebody every single time.
Get nasty.
But yeah, just get nasty here and there, and then for a defensive lineman too. Even if they're away from the play, right? Do you let that offensive lineman keep his hands on you to the end of the play or not? Like, I look for stuff like that because that's a mentality.
There's two things that you guys probably haven't brought up. Echo all your sentiments that I look for also when evaluating offensive line prospects specifically. It's important to a lot of positions, but to me, there's like three things that kind of all go into one. It's balance, body control, and coordination. It's all kind of all in the same strain. One of the biggest ways I look for it is just guys who don't end up on the ground. If you have an offensive lineman who's not falling off of blocks onto his face, that's usually a good sign that they have that body control that it takes. Because
like wrestlers.
Yes, because in the NFL, along the line of scrimmage, it ain't going to be pretty. You are not going to be on your feet all the time. You are going to be knocked off balance. How can you maintain your basically body position through that is very important to sustaining blocks in the NFL. So it's something that you can see on tape. When everything's good, it doesn't matter, but you see it a lot when like how guys recover off of blocks and stuff like that. So that's a very important trait to have. And the other one's grip strength. I think when a guy gets his hands on people and then just you don't see defensive linemen get that hand off them. That's such a I remember talking to Henry Anderson back in the day when he came out after his rookie year. I asked him, what's the biggest difference between college and NFL?
Henry Anderson, defensive tackle, Stanford.
Yeah.
That guy was a problem.
Colton Jets.
I remember asking him, what's the biggest difference? He said in college, they punch. They hit you, and then you can keep going and you get the hands off you. In the NFL, they grab you.
They latch
on.
on.
You let them latch on.
I try to get that via the neck.
So it's over. You get when you grab guys that really have that ability, and it's centers that shows up the most, I think, in my opinion.
Because it's immediate.
Guys like Zach Frazier, the guys that get that immediate hand placement, those are the ones you want. The guys that have that kind of grip strength.
Can I show you a drill that they used to put us through?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can still hear me out there in the control room. You can hear me talking through this drill.
Boom.
Okay, we'll move these mics closer to you.
What they would do, I think it was Harry Heastand who did this. He would line up rookies in individual period.
Okay.
This is like rookie mini camp shit. We're gonna find out if you have any balance. And to your exact point, they would line these rookies up and get them in their stance, and they would put a backup guard in front of them with a pad and be really low like this. And either Heastand would say, like, get in him, or Heastand would say this. And this means on the snap of the ball. So this rookie offensive guard, all you're thinking about is, I'm going to fuck this guy up because my whole bloodline's watching, and this is on film, and I got to show them how tough I am. But to your point, it's all about balance. So Heastand would have the guys get out of the way immediately.
Yeah.
And the really good ones would uncoil. They would be nothing there, and they could get
back on their feet. Yeah.
The bad ones would fall right on their face. And Heastand would be like, somebody else get in there. James Daniels from Iowa. Yeah. He'd be like, James Daniels, get in there and show him how it's done. And James would fire off with both of his knee braces and like boom, 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 and he wouldn't fall off anything. And that's a great point. Yeah. It's that recovery. And you see it in mirror dodge as well, which is another drill where if you're an O-line coach at home, get yourself 2 cones, get an offensive lineman, and get a rabbit. Offensive lineman, your job is to protect. That's the end zone right there. You can't have the defensive lineman past that point. Get behind you. Side to side, spin moves, boom, 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 boom. And the ability to not only mirror these guys and not fall off your balance, but when they convert it to because eventually in the drill, the coach snaps his finger and it becomes a bull. So you're not only being quick, but you have to be strong. You have to have the anchor, your hands right. Mirror dodge. And if you want some examples of that, go on YouTube and type in mirror dodge. It's like the be all end all, in my opinion.
O-line scouting, though, man, it's important.
100%.
It is what separates a lot of the best run teams from a lot of the worst is their ability to evaluate.
And I think throw the bench press numbers out.
That's the dumbest thing ever.
If you want to find out how strong your offensive linemen are.
Was it Cody Whitehair did like 16?
Dude, I did 0. Load the bar up and have them front squat. Load the bar up and have them snatch. I want to know how much they can snatch overhead from the floor. Olympic movements.
Uncoil those hips in the snatch.
Yes. We used to call putting your balls through the wall. That's what we used to say.
And that's definitely what
they'd be like, what's the coaching? I'd be like, put your balls through the wall, man. Like, I want to punch a hole through that thing with my crotch. You know, that's football talk right 100%.
There.
100%. That's a great conversation. All right. Let's get to mine. Mock draft. Here we go.
Yeah.
Top 10.
What number is this? Is 1.0, 2.0?
This is 1.0.
Okay.
What's the jingle? Dun, 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 the NFL draft jingle. The pick is in.
God, that used to be my ringtone back in.
You're a sick freak, dude.
So I've been in it. Round 1, pick 1. Tennessee Titans, Cam Ward. This one, again, I don't expect that pick to be different in any mocks that I see. I would just be very, very surprised. Number 2, Cleveland Browns. I have them going Abdul Carter here.
He said I'll hang up and listen.
This is interesting. I'm not mad at it, but it's an interesting one.
This guy's
I
a
think
game
for
changer.
the Browns specifically, you pair him with Myles Garrett.
That's not fair.
You know, it's like
Pick your poison.
specifically. You have 2 utterly freakish athletes off the edge.
Well, who's
Abdul
playing
Carter truly
quarterback?
might be like one of the
Miles.
best since.
Exactly.
But that's the problem is, you need a quarterback. I don't have as high a grade on Shedeur Sanders as Cam Ward. I
don't know.
Other people I respect don't either. And it's like, if you're the Cleveland Browns, you're not going to be in this position every year.
Correct.
But Abdul Carter can like win you games right now. And you're in a cap situation where maybe it is Sam Darnold, maybe it's Jameis Winston, maybe Deshaun Watson's Achilles is miraculously healed and he's back to his old form. I don't know what.
Miraculous.
But it's just a rookie quarterback I don't think is leading you to the promised land either. I think a rookie quarterback with that offense as it currently stands right now is leading you back to here next year, unfortunately. So I'm going to Abdul Carter. I think he's that good of a prospect. I think him versus Travis Hunter, you don't really need a corner there. Now, if you consider Travis Hunter a wide receiver, maybe that obviously is a need for Cleveland Browns. But to me, just the pairing of Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett is like too much for me to pass up. Too much for me to pass up. 3 New York Giants going Travis Hunter then just because obviously, and again,
that's a question.
I think the Giants are in the free agent quarterback market. You do not give lame duck GM and head coach with
one more year
and a rookie quarterback, right? Like they're knowing if we go rookie quarterback, that probably is our job.
It's over with for you.
So I have to go with Travis Hunter because he's the guy who can impact the game the most for them at this point. And obviously those 2 guys, Carter and Hunter, I think are just a different level of prospects. For them, honestly,
they have to have a corner. Deontay Banks hasn't worked out for them.
But I feel like if you go receiver with Travis Hunter, him and Malik Neighbors would be.
I think he gets maybe 5 to 7 snaps on offense a game.
Yeah,
but he's going to be a corner.
And even that though, I think is enough to where
he can make an impact.
Changes the calculus.
Yeah, for sure.
He can make Neighbors on there is terrifying.
5 to 7 snaps on offense in a game means he took about 75 to 80 snaps of offense during the week. In addition to
he's gonna have a package, I think.
But I mean, you got to practice it.
Yeah.
One thing that we always did with defensive players when they come to the off, when Matt Nagy would have Khalil Mack play tight end or Akeem Hicks play running back, they were in the offensive meetings in addition to their meetings, and then they were running it and walk through and practice. So it's a lot. I know that's a body type right there that can do whatever the hell he wants on God's green earth, but that's a lot of reps.
Patriots at number 4 have going Will Campbell.
Me too.
He's not like been my number 4 player, but I just think the need's too great. I don't see anyone being that distinctly better at this point in time, though.
So that's the question mark people have been bringing up is Calvin Banks' upside a little bit higher. My thing is, it's kind of like the Joe Alt and Fashanu conversation last year. Fashanu probably has a higher upside, but with Joe Alt coming in, he's going to, from day one, start. And that's what Will Campbell is. He's the best technician in this draft.
Bro, he is boring to watch.
Technician out of this world. Like, you're not going to beat him.
Yes.
And his recovery skills are out of this world as well.
I watched him against Jared Verse. I think it was against Jared Verse.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope I'm getting this right. And look, I've seen how strong Jared Verse is and explosive he is against NFL players. Correct. Will Campbell was just like,
he's different.
Have these paws, young man.
And I think he fits in the running game more so what they're going to do under Josh McDaniels. So Will Campbell's pick at 4. I have Mason Graham, the Michigan DT, being the pick for the Jags at 5. Now, this is assuming Trent Baalke's not there because I think Graham's going to have like 32 something inch arms.
He might go Mike Kyle Williams.
Yeah, right. He hasn't drafted a guy sub 34 inches, I think, ever. His GM tenure, and I'm not joking about that. So Mason
Graham is ready made,
but exactly
right now.
And like they need a DT too. So
would you consider corner there too? Maybe though.
Yeah, I would for them. Yeah. I think I think even wide receiver at this point, just if you're really
actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Make BTJ more explosive.
They can go anywhere, and honestly, they'd be a great trade down spot because they could use a few things.
Correct.
But I'm going Mason Graham for this one, just because I have a pretty high grade on Mason Graham. I think he's the top player available for me at this point in time. Shedeur goes 6 to the Raiders. And
too bad AP's not there anymore, huh?
I think there's a real chance he falls a little bit. I mean, just because in front of them, it's the Browns and the Giants that need a quarterback, right? And we've said that I think the Giants go and get one in free agency or via trade or whatever it is because they can't afford to have a terrible season next year, even if, they're really looking up at it in the NFC East at this point. The Browns, it's just going to be like, that's such a valuable pick at 2. Do we want to use it on one Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. Is he that much better than the quarterback you could get in the second round as a prospect or third round as a prospect? TBD, I think the Raiders would pull the trigger, though, for sure, if he's on the board for them, just because of where they are as a franchise.
Shedeur's arm strength?
And
how's Shedeur's arm strength?
It's probably, it's
good enough.
It's good enough.
The ball travels further in Colorado, though.
It's a little, it's below average by NFL standards. If he were in the NFL right now, he would be probably 25th-ish or so. I think it's about Bryce Young. I bet it's about as strong as Bryce Young. Maybe a little less.
So you think Bo Nix has a strong arm to him?
Yeah, Bo Nix definitely has a strong arm.
I saw him overthrow some guys late in the year.
Bo's definitely.
When? Down the left sideline.
I saw it in Baltimore game, but that was the only game I saw.
It's not as weak as Tua's, not as weak as probably Jalen Hurts is, but it's not as good. It was probably like Kirk Cousins was before he fell off the rails, right? It's probably about Kirk Cousins in Minnesota arm strength.
Kirk Cousins, great job at the desk last week, by the way.
Yeah,
I didn't see it.
Yeah, he was entertaining.
Pre-game show. He did a good job.
He was entertaining.
He's likable.
Number 7 Jets. I want you to take on this. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle. Now he's only played left side.
That's what I was about to ask you.
This isn't like last year's class though, where you can kind of just pick, hey, one guy's played a bunch of the left, one guy's played a bunch of right. Let's pick the right. But he's that good. You're the Jets. You're so close to having a very good offensive line.
They're only at one position away.
Yeah. And so I think he's young, malleable, and we talked about balance. His balance is exceptional when you watch him on tape. So
yeah, upside is there. Again, hasn't played right. So I mean, is this a case where if they do draft him, do they leave him at left?
Fashion.
Because Fashion actually has played right. But when Fashion moved to left, it was night and day.
Yeah.
So it was night and day. So like, I don't know if you messed that up. The interesting thing, and people can't see it next, I think the guy to draft next makes more sense for the Jets at 7.
Okay, Tetairoa McMillan.
Yeah.
For the Carolina Panthers at 8. I mean, it makes a ton of sense for the Panthers at 8. Let's get real. But I do think it does for the Jets as well. What would be
him and Garrett Wilson? That's a perfect pairing.
He's like what Alan Lazard was supposed to be.
100%.
Alan Lazard, if he could actually catch and actually create after the catch.
6'5".
You're talking about a guy that can go up and get the rock.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Love basketball.
That's what he does.
You just don't see, I mean, guys with his frame, they play basketball nowadays. Like he would be a first round pick in the NBA if that was what
I could even see. Could you even see the Panthers say the Jets do take T-Mac at 7? Could you see them going edge here?
Panthers, yeah. That's probably where they go if they don't get with one of the top wide receivers.
And then like a guy like
so many edges.
Jalen Walker, who has the flexibility to play outside and inside.
Yeah.
This feels like in Madden when I finish my season and then I get to read the names of the prospects for the first time, like at the draft. And I'm like, ooh, this guy looks cool.
What's his grade do you think going to be? Give me like 88 overall?
What's that? McMillan?
What do you think? What's this rookie?
6'5". Let's give him an 81.
Okay. Nice.
That's his Madden rating?
Yeah.
That's kind of high for a rookie.
About 79.
79 is about right.
Is that NFL ready?
Realistic.
Yeah.
By week 4, 81.
Yeah.
Number 9, I have the Saints.
I like the updates. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Saints going Michael Williams, the Georgia edge.
They missed that.
This one's like
They did.
just high-end swing if you're the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that. Okay. Because honestly, you know what the vibes I get from him? Trayvon Walker. 100%. Like, it's crazy. I was talking to you, and I think I was talking on Ryan Wilson about this, and I was like, he gives me real Trayvon Walker vibes. It's just like, he looks like a freak on, like, you always talk about passing the eye test. He passes it 100%, and he's passed it the last 3 years. I honestly thought he would be way more productive his last 2 years than he actually was.
Is this a Vernon Golston guy?
Huh?
Vernon Golston?
No. He's not that, but he's literally like Trayvon. Remember Trayvon Walker? I had him as a second round pick, maybe even third, and then all of a sudden he gets to the combine and runs like a 4.5, looks 6'5". It looks like chiseled. It looks like a superhero and goes number 1 overall. Mykel Williams gives you that same ability, and you see it on film. Like he does some freakish athletic things, but it's just not consistent. So it's just like, and nothing against Trayvon Walker because he's actually had back-to-back double-digit sack years. People don't talk about it enough.
He's a good player.
Yeah, because people
not more an overall pick.
Yeah, because people keep saying, "Well, Aiden Hutchinson," and I get it because Aiden Hutchinson looked out of this world this year. But I mean, double-digit sacks every year is nothing to like sneeze about, right?
Yeah, he should have gone 14th instead of first.
Yeah, so like Mykel gives you the same vibes.
122 sacks.
Yeah,
relatively quietly.
Yeah, late first round pick.
122 sacks.
Yeah.
He's top 20. He's near Lawrence Taylor, Von Miller.
That's another guy we could ask. Like, if we do defensive lineman, would he be in the hall?
Yeah. That's crazy.
I doubt he makes it, but
great guy.
There's a log jam there, man. John Abraham, all those guys, Jared Allen. Like, there's a log jam.
But Williams, I think the Saints uniquely can take a project. They don't need a guy to hit right now. Their timeline is 3 years out at this point.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because what if they do purge the roster? Because then they're gonna need him, right? Because who knows?
Well, he plays, but like you don't need the guy. You're not looking for immediate impact, right? You want a guy who's going to play, obviously.
Because like Grandison's a hell of a player, but because they're so cap strapped, what if they end up trading him or even Cam Jordan?
Yeah,
like now you're real thin on the edge. Chase Young, remember, is a free agent. Mm-hmm. So that might be a position they need to attack.
It is, yeah. And Cam Jordan's 35, right?
That's what I'm saying.
All right, pick 10. How do you love this one? Ashton Genty to the Chicago Bears.
Do you love that pick?
With Ben Johnson.
I love it.
The bell cow back. They're going to run. That's
the only question I have about Ashton Genty being with Ben Johnson in Chicago is Ben Johnson able to get Caleb Williams to be as effective in the play action passing game? And will the ball be out on time?
I was like, will he throw in time? Because that's what Jared Goff does really well.
Once he hits that back foot, ball's out.
Yeah.
But so they don't have, obviously, the offensive line. In this mock draft, the top 2 offensive linemen off the board. You could reach for one.
And they might lose Tevin Jenkins, too.
Yeah.
Yep. But they've been without him 50% of the games.
Which it hasn't been good, though.
Yeah. Without him, no.
That's what I'm saying.
When he's on the field and he's healthy, he's as good as anybody.
What was Braxton Jones injured to? It wasn't like super
knee. It was a leg. He got rolled up on.
Yeah. Okay. But
I'm not sure which part.
But I do think the results of the offensive line will be better regardless, just because it'll be schemed up better next year than it was this past year.
Yes.
Like it will look better.
No offense to Chris Morgan.
Regardless. Mm-hmm. And so I think having that guy back there, I mean, they drafted Gibbs 12th overall when Ben Johnson was in Detroit. I think he wants that threat back there to get everything else to work. You ain't going to find much better threats than Ashton Genty.
My concerns is I don't think he's for one, and this is no shot at Ashton Genty, he's not Gibbs when it comes to catching the football.
No.
So that's the issue I have with taking him that high at 10.
Well, they got enough guys out there who can catch the football.
Well, that's the thing. Would Swift essentially become like your Gibbs in the offense, and then he'd be more of your David Montgomery?
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
I would like that matchup. A guy that you had at pick 12 and people can't see it, I actually went my Chicago taking him. Now, again, he's probably a little bit more raw than the other 2 tackles that we talked about.
Yeah.
But I think his upside is out of this world. And I think he would be great for you guys.
He was on the best offensive line in football.
Come on, Oregon.
Come on.
So I think that makes a lot of sense for the
should have won the Joe Moore Award.
They probably should have. All right, there you have it. There's the top 10 on my mock draft. Go find it. CBSSports.com.
We're
going to take a quick
Mike.
break. After that, going to get to your guys' mailbag questions. Thank you.
And you wrote all those blurbs up, too.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance. But you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
Colson Love on the Bengals will be fun.
Yeah. He's a better player for sure.
Let's get the mailbag questions. First one comes from Meta Razor, who asks,
Meta Razor.
to be excited for Lou Anarumo, given how bad Cincinnati's defense was. Lou Anarumo, the Colts. What do we think?
I actually like this. I think people tend to forget. Just a couple of years ago, Lou Anarumo was probably considered a hot coaching candidate.
He was Mahomes' Achilles heel.
Exactly. Like that team, and people, because Joe Burrow and Jamar chasing them, are there, they tend to forget that defense kind of led them on that Super Bowl run, right? It wasn't the offense. So Joe Burrow was getting sacked like 70 times that year.
Yep.
So I love this. Sometimes you just need fresh blood. Me and Mike actually did a breakdown earlier this year, and we talked about why the Bengals have struggled on defense. One, because they've missed in some draft picks, but they've also missed in free agency. But if you look at it, a significant amount of money is paid on the offensive side. So at least he's going to have DeForest Buckner, right? He's going to have Kenny Moore. He's going to have Zaire Franklin. He's going to have a guy at each level that plays at a high level. Latu will be going into his second year. So I love this move for the Colts for sure.
I do too. And I think the one thing is you're going from a fairly simplistic Gus Bradley scheme to one that was, Lou Anarumo does a lot.
He does.
They will do a ton of different stuff on the defense side of the ball. They are not known for, any single coverage the way, some DCs are, the way Gus Bradley was. So that's going to be different. And from a personnel standpoint, that'll obviously change things, but they have a lot of turnover or going to need a lot of turnover in their secondary to begin with. I think this bodes really well, though, for Nick Cross, the safety. Obviously, the Bengals defense, with being as multiple as they are under Lou Anarumo, really featured those safeties when they had good ones. It was great. When they had bad ones, it was scary. Nick Cross, I think, is the star in the making, and I think he'll be awesome.
Go listen to a guy who knows the Cincinnati Bengals defense as well as anybody, Travis Kelce, talk about the firing of Lou Anarumo. He was beside himself on the New Heights podcast. Like, What are you doing getting rid of this guy?
This has been the one guy that's been our bugaboo.
So for the Colts, you got to be excited.
Yep. All right, next one comes from Rod Munch. I'm the Lions 1 year from now, January 21.
Comes up with these names.
2026.
It's hilarious.
Rod Munch.
How are things looking for us?
That's a good question.
Hey, let me just tell you what. Dan Campbell is a fantastic football coach, and I have no doubt that guys will buy in. I also have no doubt that there are quality control and assistant coaches who have retained as much information as possible from Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. I'm less concerned about the defensive side of the ball, obviously, because you're going to get a lot of these guys back in terms of your front seven. You're going to get that the teeth back to your defense with Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil. But Ben Johnson and the lack of creativity on offense will be a hole that is going to be difficult to fill, regardless of the talent pool, the offensive line, the receivers you have. He gets a lot of guys schemed up.
Yeah, Kyle, to your point, I don't even think we can begin to fathom what the Lions will look like, because once you lose both coordinators, they like to pluck from the current roster, right? So does Mark Brunell leave and become offensive coordinator for Aaron Glenn, or does he stay, right? Does Aaron Glenn take their linebacker coach, Kelvin Shepard, and make him the defensive coordinator? Supposedly there's rumors that Aaron Glenn would like a former head coach to be the defensive coordinator. That's why Steve Wilkes' name is
Dennis Allen.
Makes a lot of sense, right? Dennis Allen already took the job. Chicago.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. No, you're saying guys that had former. Yeah, exactly.
Because that took him. He's never been a head coach.
You want somebody that's been a head coach before.
It reminds me of Vic Fangio and Matt Nagy.
Correct.
First time head coach with a long time DC that's got the head coach pedigree.
Yep. I got another one for you. Sean McVay, Wade Phillips. That was a really good one.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what the Lions actually look like, because they already lost their D-line coach. He's the defensive coordinator now in New England because he was with Vrabel in Tennessee. So his guys are getting plucked left and right. And we saw this play out with the Philadelphia Eagles after they went to the Super Bowl, right? Now, again, that team started off 10-1 and still made it to the playoffs, but it kind of fell apart. And the NFL is just an acclimation period. When you start losing coordinators, and we see San Francisco kind of hasn't recovered after losing DeMeco Ryans. Now, they were just blessed after Saleh left that DeMeco Ryans was on staff and they were able to elevate him, but they haven't been able to kind of replace that guy on that side of the room. Yet their defense still plays well, because we always talk about this, the Jimmy and the Joes, right? And that's what the Lions have. And they have the Jimmy and the Joes.
They had more Jimmys and Joes, too, in San Francisco. DeForest Buckner, young. Eric Armstead, young.
Correct.
I mean, that group was...
They were stacked.
Yeah.
So, I think the Lions, from a personnel point, they're going to be fine, regardless, whoever the coordinator is. Will they be at the level they were with Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn? Is to be determined. That's the question.
No. It's going to be difficult to replicate. But I will say, they're as talented as
they'll be just fine.
Yeah, they have the personnel, man.
Then this one's a follow-up about Detroit. They said, do you think Detroit has a starter level opening on their roster? Should teams use a first-round pick on developmental or non-starters? When is it appropriate? They definitely do.
I was about to say, got a couple.
Both guard positions.
I was about to say, yeah.
That might be it, though. I mean, defensively.
Well, if they lose Kirby Joseph.
He's not free agent yet.
I thought he is this year.
No. Carlton Davis is.
Yeah, I know Carlton Davis is.
They drafted Carlton Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu, Derek Barnes, Marcus Davenport, Levi Muzurike. There's a bunch, like half of the defense, but it's mostly second backups that are.
Wow. Breaking news here. Liam Cohen removes himself from consideration for the Jaguars head coaching job. Will sign a new coordinator deal.
What did Baker offer him? What did Baker offer him?
That's awesome.
That's great for Bucs.
Bad news for the Ravens.
Oh, it's bad news for the Jags. Oh, my God. Oh, you're right. Kirby does have one more year.
So great news for Bucs fans. And
wow.
That might mean head coach in waiting, sort of. Todd Bowles.
That could
planning to retire in a few years.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though.
Very.
Because Todd Bowles has been great. I mean, his teams overperform.
I think this is a scenario that Liam Cohen sat back, watched Ben Johnson kind of really gain traction by turning down 2 years of potentially leaving to be a head coach, because maybe the jobs that are currently out there he doesn't feel are a great fit for him. So he feels like he's got Baker Mayfield, he's got Mike Evans. We'll see what they do with Chris Godwin. They have a system with three-headed monster at running back now. I think Rashad Wright is going to be a free agent this year, but you still got Tucker and Bucky Irvin, and he has a really good offensive line. He's like, why would I leave this for a job where I don't know it's going to be, up in the air?
He's just starting to figure out what works in that.
Correct, right? So, like, I mean, kudos to him, but that's the only thing. We talked about this before. Like, Lou Anarumo was a hot candidate, didn't get a job, and then next thing you know, he's fired as a defensive coordinator. So sometimes when you have an opportunity to take a head coaching job, you don't want to take anyone, right? Because, again, having a bad showing at head coach could derail you in the future. But kudos to Liam Cohen for deciding he wanted to stay.
Turning down nearly $13 million a year.
I would say the Jags probably had to offer him at least 10.
They definitely did. And they rightfully should have.
No sales tax?
Exception for that.
No income tax?
Yeah, exactly.
Sales tax. Jacksonville is saying. But,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. Jacksonville.
Imagine what that number is.
Yeah, for both teams, Raiders and Jacksonville, would have been good.
Man, oh man. Mark Davis is pissed. He's cutting that hair pissed off today. God damn.
Who's going to be? Pete Carroll is, it looks like.
Yeah.
To get back to Cap and Buccaneers secondary questions, he said, when should a team use first round picks on developmental or non-starters? I mean, I don't think just because you have a guard need, you're like best guard available in the first round, right? If you're the Detroit Lions,
get a mid-round guy.
Crazy. I think it's a crazy way to approach the draft, because that's how you end up passing on just good players.
Correct. What's Taylor Decker's future look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously if there's
age.
a lot like last year's class, there was a zillion first round grades they gave out at offensive tackle or interior offensive line.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like, then you're going to have value because there's too many of them. Not everyone's going to pick them. So, I do think that there's years where it makes sense, but you still have to. I mean, your first round pick, you can pick developmental guys, but I don't like taking developmental guys at non-premium positions. So that's take developmental quarterbacks, take developmental offensive tackles, take developmental edge rushers.
Edge guys, yeah.
That's probably it. Like if a guy's developmental wide receiver, that should scare you. If a guy's developmental cornerback, that should scare you.
Yeah.
Those are the.
You're saying guard's not a premier position?
Not that I take a developmental guy in the first round, because you can find them in the third and fourth round.
Yeah.
That's more what I'm saying.
That's why I thought I was going to be a third round guy, because I was that developmental guy. But I got lucky because I had a great coach.
Yeah.
I had a great coach, and I went into a room with three other guys, and Jermon Bushrod was a 10-year player, Roberto Garza, 13-year player, Matt Slauson, 8 or 9 year player.
Yeah.
That's not every room in the NFL.
Correct.
But to the Detroit conversation,
that would be their room.
You've got guys
that would be their room.
They'd be like, no, we can protect you with our calls and with the techniques you'll learn.
I wonder what Mike thinks about this one, because this guy can kick outside and did for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Oh, Donovan Jackson.
That late in the first round, it makes a lot of sense. A guy that can start from day one at guard, and if Decker were to leave the following year, he can swing out there.
I've had him as my third-ranked offensive lineman for like the last 3 months, even before he really started showing out off tackle, just because I love what I saw from at guard.
I think, and the thing is, he feels like a Detroit Lion too.
Yeah,
I gotta watch this guy.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
Watch them both at guard and at tackle.
Okay,
yeah. You got to go to last year for y'all.
Next one here comes from Robbie. He says, do you have any individual plays that stand out in your mind as the best, most memorable? I assume this is to you, Kyle, because it was. Yes. Bonus points if you can pull up an all 22 clip.
Do that one for you, right?
We were on like the plus 25 at Soldier Field one time, and my favorite play type was mid zone away from me, because obviously the front side blocks get the play started, but as the right guard on a, let's say 39, if I can get to the second level and get that linebacker blocked up or dominated or get to the safety or MDM, whoever it is, those are the plays that end up becoming touchdowns. I don't remember exactly what happened on this play, but I caught AJ Hawk in a bad spot on the backside, and I took him all the way to the wall. And he still hates me for it. I went on the McAfee show, and he was like, "You
blindsided him."
Like we were both. I was taking an angle, a 45-degree angle, to go make a cutoff block. He was trying to figure out to go over the top underneath.
Back door.
And I got him underneath, and I just tried to Michael Orr blind.
That's what I'm saying. I tried
to take him to the wall. And I remember I was on the McAfee show, and he was like, giving me shit about it.
Yeah.
But that was a play that I remember. And most of the plays that I do remember were horrible plays that, you remember the bad ones, right?
Yeah.
Those are the ones that keep you up at night. Julius Peppers swiping your hands and, converting a speed rush to an underneath rush and getting a sack. These things you want back. But yeah, I mean, any play where we were in 4 minute where I turn to the sideline and I say, run it behind me. And Bobby Massey, my right tackle, was like, hell yeah, run that shit again. Run it again. We'd be doing this again. So yeah, any 4 minute drive where the Bears won means that we got our blocks done the right way.
Next up, best Jay Cutler stories. Some comes from Caleb Wiley. That you can tell on appropriate.
You know what?
They're not actually.
I'm going to tell this story. Okay. So I was never very good with the ladies. Jay Cutler, pretty smooth with the ladies. Yeah, I'll tell you. That. He's done a good job. And it was my rookie year or my second year. And I remember he would always be like, let me see your phone. And I'd be like, okay. And he would be like, do you know what to say to this girl? She obviously, she liked all your pictures. She does this and that. So I would give Jay my phone, and he would type up messages for me. He was like living vicariously through me. So that's one story. But one night, we all went out, and a bunch of us ended up back at my house, and Jay went home because he was a dad. You know what I'm saying? And the next morning I woke up to Jay had broken into my house with his two sons.
Really?
And woke me up just to see the aftermath of
that's hilarious.
And I'm talking like 7:30 a.m. before we got to go work out or something. Jay as a teammate, I always loved. He was tougher than shit. He was so talented and so much fun to watch play. But Jay off the field is the guy that I wish people would have experienced more, because I feel like they'd have a better appreciation for him. Obviously, you hear a lot of people in the media talk about he wasn't a great teammate, blah, blah, blah. He just wasn't for that. That kind of leadership wasn't for him. His leadership was like, no. When I tuck the football and run for the first down, I'm going to get the first down and I'm going to light somebody up. And when Brandon does come open, I'm going to put the ball right between his numbers. That's the leadership that spoke to me. But he was he was a great veteran to me. I think he understood that if I was in the building, he was going to be safer than if I wasn't in the building. Yeah. So he made sure that I was on time. And I can remember a number of times he'd show up at like 6:30 a.m. at my house. He'd drive across town to wake me up to make sure that I was up for lifts. Jay, good dude.
All right, next one comes from Josh King. He asks, is Abdul Carter is the best edge prospect since who? I think Will Anderson was probably the best edge prospect since Chase Young, who was probably the best edge prospect since Myles Garrett. And then I don't know if I've seen a better edge prospect.
Chase Young.
So a freakish prospect,
dude.
So,
or the Jadeveon Clowney.
Is he better than Will Anderson?
It's weird, right? Because when you look at it, and I know people will get this connotation because of the number 11 at Penn State. People couldn't figure out if Michael Parsons was going to be a linebacker or an edge guy coming out either, because he was such a freak athlete, just like Abdul Carter. Like, this is his first year literally playing specifically in. He's been an inside linebacker. So the crazy thing is, and I think that's why everybody's so high on him, you just don't know what his upside is. And after seeing what Michael Parsons did, and they're kind of built the same way and they have the same freakish athletic tools. That's why I think everybody's so high on him because of what Micah did essentially. And I guarantee most teams, if they could go back, I think Micah went with 11. I think he would have probably went top 3 or 4.
Oh yeah.
If they would have knew what they do now. Right. So I think that's what pushes Abdul Carter up. So I don't know if he was, because the production that Will Anderson had like at Bama for 3 straight years was out of this world in the SEC when the SEC was the SEC.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Back when they were the only ones getting paid.
Correct. You're like what you did there.
Alabama Jones getting real serious.
We're back there.
Hey, good game, son.
Exactly. So, I mean, like from that standpoint, I'm with you, Mike. Like, just because we don't know what his ceiling is, he probably is the best since Will Anderson. I would have leaned towards Will, because we go back to this all the time, right? The exception in the rule. Like, we've seen Will Anderson do it for multiple years.
Yeah.
Where Abdul Carter, you've seen him be a really good linebacker, and we saw him be elite at the edge this year, but this was the only year we saw him on the edge.
I tend to think Abdul Carter's got a higher ceiling.
I think he has a higher ceiling for sure. Yeah.
He's a freak show.
Yeah.
Just as like a true rush the passer guy, I would take Abdul Carter. Will Anderson, more complete edge. He did it for 3 years, right?
Yeah.
He was true freshman starter at Alabama. So it's different sort of apples to oranges, but
Can't lead with his helmet as much.
Scouting is not what you've done. It's
Will Anderson,
what you could be. So I'd probably lean Carter. I think I'd probably still go not a better prospect than Chase Young, though. That guy was so good his last year at Ohio State. Yeah. So good as a rookie.
He was too good.
Truly never, I don't know what happened with him, but
you enjoy that kind of success, and like I don't know.
It might be, honestly. Some just like
he just had the injury
that's
bug.
The Clowney effect, dude.
Yeah. But definitely
just too good.
I think Myles Garrett was even like a better prospect than Clowney. Myles
Garrett was a freak.
Myles Garrett may be the best guy at his job in the National Football League.
I don't even think it's close.
Right? I mean, am I crazy in saying that? Like, we know Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT, but like Myles Garrett is better at his job
position by position
than anybody else in the league is good. Maybe Sean McVay or something like that.
You know what's so freakish too about that is like Von Miller came out a few years ago before that, and nobody thought that anybody would be like Von Miller, and then Myles Garrett, the alien,
same school,
nowhere, same school,
at 272 pounds.
Because he was like freak, yo, like.
Yeah. And then you watch him play basketball, and it's
windmilling.
Like, what the hell, bro?
Like Coach said, that ain't nothing but God and your parents.
Mom, dad, and God.
Exactly.
Hey, I had a coach who would be like, "Did you thank him today?" And I'd be like, "Who's that coach?" Mom, dad, and God.
Facts.
There is a guy, though, true freshman in South Carolina named Dylan Stewart, who's the closest thing I've seen. Because Myles Garrett's freshman year at Texas A&M.
Dylan Stewart is the name.
Yeah.
Dylan Stewart is
in 2 years from now. Oh my God.
He could be that.
These kids are just eating different now.
Man.
So there you have it. That's our show for today. Thanks for all the mailbag questions, and thanks for tuning in. As always, we'll be back tomorrow previewing championship round. Wow, feels weird to say championship.
So
we're here.
Jaden Daniels is in the NFC Championship.
I've been trying to tell you guys.
Hey, we were talking.
I think I'm riding the Commanders all the way through,
bro. If they beat the Eagles, they are going to win the Super Bowl.
If he gets the ball last and they're down, they're winning the game.
That would be.
I'm picking the Chiefs to win it all, but if Jaden Daniels
gets the ball last,
Jaden Daniels beats the Eagles,
this is gonna be an interesting game.
It's a wild year.
It is. Can't wait. All right. Until then, keep pushing.